What's up guys, Gator with self.dev. Welcome to today's video. We're gonna go over 5 things you thought you needed JavaScript for, but you can actually do with just CSS. You might already know all of these, but if you're not an omnipotent code god and you're like me, then you might learn 1 or 2 new things. If you do, give me a thumbs up so YouTube knows I'm doing good stuff. And if you don't, let me know your coolest CSS thing that you thought you needed JavaScript for in the comments below, because I would love to learn some more stuff like this. So I think that's it. So let's go. First up is smooth scrolling. So sometimes when I'm building pages, we'll have anchor tags like this that point to IDs lower on the page. By default, that's not the page I was looking for. If you click on one of the anchor tags, it just immediately jumps down to that section of the page. One of the designers I work with doesn't really like that. He likes it when it does the smooth scroll like that. So an easy way we can do that with just CSS is go to our style sheet, and then down here, we will just grab the HTML element, and then we will add scroll behavior, smooth, and save. And then if we go back here and click on one of the anchor tags, it just smoothly scrolls down now. And that also applies to JavaScript. So like, let's say you have a button on the page and you're like on click of this button, scroll down 1,000 pixels. That smooth scroll would apply to that as well. So that is little tip number 1. Number 2 is how to make a sticky nav. So this is what I actually wanted the page for. We're doing some marketing for Apple's resellers, and one of the nav bars is kind of lower on the page so they can switch between the different sections of content, but we wanted the nav bar to stick to the top after they scroll down to a certain point so they could still switch between that content. So that's basically a sticky nav when it just sticks to the top of the page or wherever you want it on the page. How you would implement that, we've got our nav bar here in the HTML, we've got our nav bar, and it's gonna stick to its relative parent element. So the body is the next parent element above it. So if we grab our nav bar here, we're just gonna say position, sticky, and then we want to say top 0 and save. So now whenever the top of that, I don't need this page anymore, whenever the top of the nav bar is at the position 0, it's gonna stick to the top, which it's already there, so it should just stick to the top of the page like so. Now you can add some kind of cool effects, like let's say we get the body, and we want the body to have 10 pixels as margin. So now there's this little white gap here. Now when we scroll down, there's a little delay before it sticks to the top. So that kind of makes a cool little effect. Just an example of something you can play around with on that. But that is how you would make a sticky nav bar. Up next is truncating text. So what is truncating text? Truncating text is when you have, let's say you want like 2 lines, and then after 2 lines, you want it to just have ... So the user knows there's more text or more content, but they can't see it. You could use this if you have like a resources page and you're pulling in multiple blogs and you just want to give a little excerpt from the blog, but you only want it to be a certain length. So you could truncate the text so you've got like 3 lines of content and then the ... and then they can click read more if they want to actually go to the blog post and read more. So to do that, we're gonna just do this in our inspector here. So we'll zoom in a little bit so you guys can see that good. All right, so first thing we want to do, we want to say overflow, and we've got our p tag selected. So this is what has the text inside of it. We're gonna say overflow hidden. Next, we want to set the display to WebKit box. Then we want to say WebKit box orient vertical. And then the last thing we need is line clamp. And if whatever you say here, that's how many lines it's going to give you. So if we say 3 lines, as you can see right here, we've got 3 lines of content. If we grab that and we just want 2 lines, it switches to 2. If we want to have 4 lines, it switches to 4. Now the reason we need the overflow is because if we don't have it, the rest of the text is still visible. So we're basically just hiding that 1 line of text below it. But that is what you would do to be able to truncate text. Now the next little cool one is snap scrolling or scroll snapping. So that is where we basically have like text on the screen and you can scroll to the right and it'll just go to the next card, the next card, the next card. So to do that, we are going to go to our HTML here. We're going to go ahead and comment out everything we've got here because you have to have the HTML organized in a specific way. So we're going to comment that out, and we're going to uncomment this section that I've got coded out already here. So save. No, wait. There we go. All right, and then we're gonna collapse these p tags just to let you see what's going on here. So we have a parent container, the div, And then inside we've got 3 sections, and each one of these sections is gonna be one of the cards. First thing we're gonna do is grab the container, and then we wanna give it the scroll snap type X mandatory. Now, what this is gonna do is, let's say you've got a card here and a card here. If you've scrolled a little bit to where both cards are visible, the mandatory says, hey, it's gotta pick either one or the other, so it'll go to the next card or stay on the one that's currently visible, whichever one is more in view. And there's a few other things we wanna give this just for aesthetic purposes. We wanna say display flex and overflow X hidden. And that is what we need for our containers here. And then we want to select the, is it children or child? It's child. So we will select the child elements inside of the container. And in here, we want to, first we want to give this a width of 100 view width, height, 100 view height. So they always take up the full width and height of the screen. We also want our text inside to be nice and centered, so we'll do display flex, line items center, and we want the content to be centered, so we'll justify content center as well. And then that'll make our content look nice and neat, but the only property we really need is scroll snap align start. And then we'll save that. And then if we go here, all right, so we've got a little bug. What is going on here? If we inspect that, our children, so the width is not taking up 100 view width. We need it to take up 100 view width. So if we add min width, 100 view width, and then save, now we're looking a lot better now. We do want the child P to not take up the full width, just because like it looks more aesthetically pleasing. So we'll say max width 500 pixels, margin auto. There we go. And then if we go back here, now we've got our text in the center of the screen. And if we click on the right arrow, it'll scroll to the next card for us. As you can see, we're getting a little bit, like you can scroll a little bit before it actually triggers, and that's because if we inspect our element, the margin is pushing it to where it's over 100 view width. So actually, if we say max width 100 view width as well, would that fix that problem for us? No, because the P is still 100 view width. It's the body that has the margin on it that's throwing us off, I think. So if we set this to 0, then there we go. Now it just automatically scrolls when we press the arrows. So I don't know what you would use this for. Maybe just like a different kind of web layout. Or I guess if you've got like an apartment complex and you're designing a website for that and they want to have sections that tell about their apartment complex and just like huge background images to show off how beautiful their complex is, you could have like a background image of the apartment complex, some more text telling about it, and then a different background image of another section of the apartment complex, and so on and so forth. But that is how we can make scroll snapping, snap scrolling, whatever you want to call it, work. Now the last one we're going to talk about here, we are going to need our original HTML back, so we're going to comment that out and uncomment the first stuff, and it's called pointer events none. What this does is stops an element from receiving pointer events and basically like bricks the click events, or stops the click events from propagating. So if we inspect our anchor element here and we say pointer, actually just to demonstrate that it works, if we click on about, it scrolls down to the bottom. We removed that HTML scroll behavior smooth, so it just jumps down now. But if we inspect this and we say pointer events none, that prevents this element from receiving any kind of click or pointer events. We can't even inspect it really. If we inspect, it goes to the nav bar. It basically just acts like that element's not even there. You can see it, but you can't click on it. You can't highlight it. Like if these, I can click and drag and highlight. This one can't even click on. If I inspect this, it inspects that element. But if I inspect this, it inspects the nav. So that's another kind of little handy thing. Like if you're working in WordPress and you can't really manipulate the HTML, but you need an element to not be able to receive click events or pointer events, or you've got an element on the bottom that needs the click events and then one above it for some reason that is preventing that lower element from receiving the click events, you can add pointer events none to the top one and then pointer events all to the bottom one if you need to, and then that bottom element will be able to receive the click events. So I think that's about it. If you learned something new, give me a thumbs up so YouTube knows I'm doing good stuff, and I know this helps you out. If you have some awesome CSS tricks that people thought they had to do in JavaScript but can do in CSS, let me know in the comments below, because I would be interested to learn those. If you want to get my resume template, the one I used when I was applying for web developer jobs before I had a web developer job, look in the description. I'll have a way for you to get that. If you want to come hop in the Discord and talk tech, say hey, ask me any questions, look for the link in the description below. And I think that's about it. So make sure you hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date when we put out new stuff, and I will see you next time. Peace.
Round 1.